They never get louder than when you're on your knees. I learned that the hard way, face to the floor, air burning like rust in my throat, the room tilting while laughter skated along the walls. It wasn't just voices. It was blades wrapped in syllables. It was breath turned to barbs. It was people who swore they loved me, carving their initials into my silence and calling it truth. They loved the sound of a man falling. They pass the echo around like a glass, sip it in front of you, wipe their mouths and ask if you're okay, then turn and tell the next room you were never strong to begin with. I didn't realize noise could weigh this much. A rumor can be light as ash and still bury you like a mountain if enough hands keep throwing. You, yes you, with the polite smile that never reached your eyes. You didn't stab me clean. You carved me open like a slow reader, line by line, pretending you were still deciphering the story while you blacked out whole pages. You called it concern. I called it weather. I stood there in your storm without an umbrella, thinking loyalty would be enough to keep me dry. They speak when you fall. They go mute when you rise. That's the rule. No one writes it down, but everyone signs it. When I gave everything, the room took. When I had nothing, the room talked. And when I decided I was done defending myself to echoes, the room accused me of pride. Funny thing about echoes, they only know how to repeat. They can't make anything new. They can only distort what you were already brave enough to say. So I stopped feeding them. At first, silence felt like choking. It felt like drowning with an audience. It felt like dying in a library where every book is about you, but written by hands that never knew your blood type. Silence is a small room with no windows. Just you in the mirror and the questions you swore you'd never ask. Was I naive? Was that love? What did I miss when I was too busy being loyal? The mirror doesn't answer, but it does remember the warmth of it. I could have sworn it was sunlight, the way it lit the room. I trusted the glow and didn't realize it came from the kind of fire that eats foundations first. You weren't rescuing me from the dark. You were making sure I couldn't see where the exits were. There's a language inside betrayal that you only learn when you stop answering questions you never owed. The language sounds like metal. It has edges. It teaches you to stop explaining and start forging. The words change from "please understand me" to "watch." From "I'm not what they say" to "I don't care what they need me to be." From "hear me" to the clean promise of silence. You will feel what I've become without me having to announce it. Noise is a crowd's courage. They hold each other's hands, lift their voices, and pretend volume is victory. But real power doesn't raise its voice. It lowers its heartbeat. It slows down. It steps into a room and steals its oxygen by existing. It doesn't argue because it doesn't audition. It doesn't prove, because it's already paid. I paid. With the first cut, I paid in trust. With the second, I paid in time. By the third, I'd learned the exchange rate. Loyalty is always overpriced in markets run by cowards. They sell you the future with a smile and hand you a receipt that says you should have known better. And when you finally ask for a refund, they call you ungrateful for wanting back what you never should have lost. So I traded. I traded explanations for iron. I traded open doors for locked focus. I traded a house full of voices for a room with a single light and a blade that knew my name. I stopped defending the version of me they volunteered for execution. I started building the version of me who isn't available for their trial. You said you loved me, but it sounded like a lease. You handed me keys that opened nothing, your worth to their heir. Hold the steel of your standards in the light, and you see which fingerprints never belong there. Press your ear to the anvil of your own name, and you hear the heartbeat you thought you lost under their parade. You could have kept me. All you had to do was not turn my softness into evidence. All you had to do was hold the truth with both hands. But you wanted applause more than you wanted my presence. And the crowd was cheaper. They always are. That's the discount you took. That's the debt you keep. So I won't argue with you. I won't write letters to people who only read headlines. I won't hand you a map back to me. The bridge you burned doesn't get rebuilt with your apologies. It gets memorialized in my quiet. It becomes a landmark I pass on my way somewhere higher. Let them talk. Let them circle my name like vultures that haven't noticed the body got up and learned to fly. Let them throw fire at the water and pretend they're winning. I'll keep doing what I promised myself in the first hour after the first cut. I will not bleed in public for people who cheer for stains. I will not shrink to fit the rumor mill. I will not give them the performance they bought tickets for. The silence is not surrender. It's strategy. It's the clean room where I rebuild the man they thought was finished. It's the armory where I lay my hurt on the table and hammer it flat until it shines. It's the vow I made to speak less and show more. It's the place where noise goes to die and discipline is born with a sword in its hand. They can keep the sound. I'll keep the fire. And when the doors open, when the floor stops tilting, when the air finally tastes like metal and not rust, they'll learn what I learned. that a quiet man with a blade made from... They say a blade cuts once, but betrayal cuts forever. I can still feel the echo of that first slice, not on my skin, but in the marrow. The kind of wound that doesn't bleed, because blood would be mercy. No. Betrayal bleeds slower. It drips in silence, through nights that should have been safe, through mornings that should have carried peace. It doesn't heal like flesh. It grows like rust. You smiled while carving me open. You held my trust like a chalice, fragile, sacred. And you spilled it as if it was cheap wine, something you could wipe off your hands, something that didn't matter. I gave you my chest without armor, and you pressed the dagger deeper with every kind word. That's what makes betrayal crueler than hatred. It wears the mask of love while tightening the noose. I used to think loyalty was unbreakable, that if I gave it clean, it would come back sharpened, that if I stayed, others would stay. But the cruel joke of betrayal is that it doesn't always come from your enemies. It comes from the faces you memorized, from the hands you trusted to hold you when you were too tired to stand, from the voices that swore, "I'll never leave." And when they did leave, they didn't just walk. They stole the ground beneath you, and then stood there, watching you sink, blaming you for drowning in the hole they dug. Everyone believes the liar first. Everyone joins the louder choir. They don't check the blade in your back. They ask why you were standing in front of it. They don't ask what was stolen. They ask why you weren't guarding it better. Betrayal teaches you quickly. Most people don't care about the truth. They care about the spectacle. You know this. You proved it with your absence. Silence unshakable. And so, I stopped asking why you did it. The why doesn't matter. Poison doesn't need a reason. It only needs a vessel. And you were that vessel. Now I carry the weight differently. Not as a burden, as an anchor. It holds me to the ground when the wind of lies tries to drag me back. It reminds me that fire was the only answer. It keeps me from forgetting the lesson carved into my back. Trust is earned, not owed. You can keep your stories. You can keep your false crowns and hollow victories. Because the man I've become in your absence, the man betrayal forced me to build, doesn't sit at tables set by cowards. He builds his own throne from the very stone you thought would bury him. This is the weight of betrayal. But the fall, the rise. At first, silence felt like punishment. Like being locked in a cell where the only sound was the echo of my own breath, ragged and uneven. The world outside my walls was screaming my name, twisting it into shapes I didn't recognize. And all I could do was sit in the dark and swallow the noise. I used to beg for someone to listen. I used to reach for explanations, proof, logic. I thought truth was enough. But the truth is nothing in the hands of liars. A pure diamond in a thief's grip will still be pawned off as glass. And so, I stopped begging. I stopped handing them my words, because words in their mouths only came back poisoned. That's when silence changed. It stopped being a cage. It became a forge. Because silence, if you sit in it long enough, turns pain into steel. Every unanswered accusation, every rumor you didn't fight, every story you let run its course, all of it is heat. All of it bends you, reshapes you, and in that reshaping, I became something else. You mistook my silence for weakness. You thought my refusal to clap back meant I had nothing left. You told your stories. You performed for your crowds. You bathed in applause that cost you nothing but my dignity. And I let you. Not because I was broken, but because I was building. Silence is a patient weapon. It waits. It studies. It sharpens in the shadows. The man who yells in every room burns out his throat. But the man who sits quietly, he's the one they fear when he finally stands. Because silence doesn't announce. It arrives. I sat in rooms alone, with nothing but the sound of my own chest rising and falling. And I learned things about myself I would have never learned with you beside me. I learned how much weight I can carry when no one offers to help. I learned what hunger it'll be the weight of everything you threw at me, hammered into a weapon you'll never be able to dull. So keep talking. Keep building your castles out of noise. Keep convincing yourself that my quiet means you won. Because in the end, all your words are smoke, and smoke clears. But silence stays. It seeps into the bones. It changes the air. It lingers long after the voices choke themselves dry. My silence is not the end of me. It is the beginning of what you'll never be able to destroy. They thought they were starving me. They were feeding me. Every whisper was kindling. Every rumor was a match head dragged across my ribcage. Every staged apology, every crocodile tear, every smile sharpened into a blade. They all stacked wood in a place they couldn't see. They thought the pile would collapse on me. They didn't realize I was arranging it. They didn't know I had learned how to breathe breathe around smoke, how to see through fog, how to keep a steady hand while the air stung my eyes. Pain used to scatter me. It blew me into corners, into excuses, into late-night arguments with ghosts who never argued back. But in the quiet I built, the pain found shape, and with shape came purpose. With purpose came heat, and with heat came fire. I stopped arguing with shadows and started lifting metal. I put iron on my shoulders and made gravity confess its weight to me. I put miles under my feet until the ground remembered my name. I put pages under my eyes, feeding the brain I had neglected while I was busy defending a heart you treated like a thrift store. I built a schedule that didn't care about my mood. I built a spine that didn't care about approval. I built a ritual that burned softer than rage and longer than applause. You didn't give me closure. You gave me fuel. You didn't give me healing. You gave me hunger. The gym became a chapel. The sweat was a liturgy only my blood could read. The barbell was a cross I chose to carry, not because I needed to suffer, but because I needed to suffer for something that would not betray me. Steel keeps its promises. It answers force with truth. It tells you exactly where you're weak and exactly how to get stronger. It does not gossip. It does not lie. It does not abandon. It waits for you to return. And when you do, it does not pretend it thinks. And each one was a twig. Thank you for the twigs. Thank you for the branches. Thank you for the furniture you dragged out of our old house and set at my feet with a smirk. Thank you for calling me stubborn while handing me everything I'd need to survive the winter you wished on me. The fire changed my gait. I stopped walking like a man trying not to break, and started walking like a man who had already broken and rebuilt. I stopped entering rooms like a question mark, and started arriving like a period. End of sentence. End of debate. End of your little stage show. I speak less now, but when I do, the room leans in. Not because I'm louder, but because I'm carrying heat. I learned to weaponize the apology I would never receive. I learned to cash it out in work. Every time my chest remembered the emptiness where your loyalty should have been, I deposited that ache into the bank of repetition. Every deposit gained interest. Months later, I woke up with an account balance you could never afford. Self-respect compounded daily. You tried to make me doubt my worth. I did the reps until worth stopped being a question. You tried to make me doubt my vision. I did the miles until the horizon stopped moving when you spoke. You You tried to make me doubt my voice. I kept quiet until silence learned to speak for me. Let them talk. It became more than a mantra. It became logistics. While they held meetings about my name, I held the line. While they compared notes on my failures, I took notes on my form. While they waited for me to call, I waited out the storm until the sky cleared and the path revealed itself like a scar healing clean. You stood in the doorway with that gentle tilt of the head, that catechism of concern. "Are you okay?" you asked, while hiding a lighter behind your back. I said I was fine. I wasn't. I was learning how to burn without burning out. Mistake. The fire remembers. It remembers every syllable you stacked like tinder. It remembers the nights you rehearsed my collapse. It remembers the bets you made against my spine. And it will repay all debts. Not with speeches, not with headlines, but with results you cannot spin and a presence you cannot ignore. I don't need revenge. I need radius. Heat that radiates so far your stories evaporate before they reach me. Heat that keeps my circle small and my purpose large. Heat that bends metal, my own first, into something functional, lethal, beautiful. A blade that cuts clean through the rope tying me to your version of me. If you see me now and wonder why I don't flinch, it's because I've stood too close to my own flames to be scared of your sparks. If you hear me now and the tone is colder, it's because the fire burned off everything that begged for your approval. If you feel me now and it makes your throat tighten, it's because you finally understand. I am not coming back to the room you built to watch me fail. I built my own. And the door here does not swing for applause. So let them talk. Let them declare me finished from balconies they didn't build. Let them point at smoke and call it proof. All they are seeing is steam from a life under construction. And when the scaffolding comes down, when the last ember settles, when the furnace door opens, you won't hear a speech. You'll feel the heat. And you'll know it came from you. They said I was fragile. They said I would crack. And for a while, they were right. But fragility doesn't last forever. It hardens. It calcifies. It remembers. Every fracture becomes a vein of strength. Every scar becomes a line in the blueprint of something unbreakable. And somewhere between the fire that tried to consume me and the silence that sheltered me, I stopped being flesh alone. I became stone. At first, I didn't notice the change. I thought I was still soft, still open, still bleeding. But one day I realized the wounds weren't leaking anymore. They were sealing. They weren't screaming anymore. They were whispering lessons. My chest still carried the echo of betrayal, but it didn't collapse under it. It held. And in that holding, I discovered something they never wanted me to know. Pain does not only destroy, it reinforces. You made me bleed, but in the bleeding I found my edges. You tried to break me, but in the breaking, I found my form. You laughed at the cracks in me, but you forgot something. Cracks let the fire inside escape. Cracks let the light through. Cracks prove that the weight pressed against me wasn't enough to crush. It was only enough to shape. So yes, I am different now. I don't bend for the same voices. I don't kneel for the same promises. I don't wait at doors that never open. My silence is not empty. It's filled with stone walls that echo with my own footsteps, reminding me that the only company I ever needed was the one looking back in the mirror. I carry my scars like inscriptions, proof that I lived, proof that I endured, proof that I rebuilt. Each mark is a covenant with myself. Never again will I give the same trust so freely. Never again will I hand someone the map to my softest places without knowing they've earned it. Stop defending myself against mouths that were already full of lies. Do you feel it now? That chill when I walk past? That stillness that tightens your throat? That stone. That's the absence of need. That's the presence of weight. You cannot bribe it. You cannot threaten it. You cannot bend it. You burned me once, but fire only tempered me. You broke me once, but fractures only taught me how to heal stronger. You silenced me once, but silence only became my language. And now, I stand here, not as a man asking for space at your table, but as a fortress you cannot enter. I do not need to shout. My silence speaks. I do not need to prove. My scars prove. I do not need to return. My absence is its own monument. You can talk all you want. You can twist all you need. But when the dust settles, the stone will remain, unmoved by your noise. And when you reach for me again, when your hands finally realize the softness you once knew is gone, you'll find only walls where you once found doors. I am not fragile anymore. I am not bleeding anymore. I am stone now, And stone does not break for you. For a long time, I stayed in the dark. Not because I was afraid, but because I was preparing. The world thought silence meant absence. They mistook stillness for surrender. They saw the shadows swallow me and assumed I had been buried there. But shadows are not graves. They are workshops. They are hiding places for those who know patience. They are cover for those who build in secret. I did not disappear. I was chiseling. I was hammering. I was forging the man they would never recognize until it was too late. When I finally stepped back into the light, I did not come back as I was. I came back as something else. I walked with the weight of stone, with the fire still smoldering in my chest, with silence carved into every step. And they felt it before they saw me. Presence like pressure, breath like iron, eyes that did not scan for approval, but measured every room as if it already belonged to me. The old me would have sought their gaze. The old me would have waited for applause, for recognition, for a chance to explain. But the man who returns from the shadows does not ask to be seen. He simply is. His existence is louder than their lies. His walk is heavier than their gossip. His silence is more deafening than their noise. You, yes, you were there, weren't you? Watching from a distance, whispering that I'd never make it, rehearsing your pity in case I crawled back. You thought my silence was starvation. You thought it was weakness. You thought I was waiting for you. But I was never waiting. I was growing teeth in the dark. I was sharpening claws in the quiet. I was turning the same betrayal that tried to bury me into the crown I now wear on my head. And when I walked past you again, I saw it in your eyes. That flicker, that hesitation, that unspoken question, truth for them. I don't even need to speak for them to feel it. My silence has become a language they can't ignore. Every success unannounced, every victory unseen until it crashes into their ears. Every step forward without explanation. It is all fire under their skin. They choke on it without me ever raising my voice. Do you know what true revenge looks like? It's not shouting. It's not proving. It's not explaining until you're blue in the face. True revenge is returning as someone they cannot touch. It is walking back into the world, not with rage on your tongue, but with silence in your bones. It is letting your presence do what your words never could. End the argument without ever engaging. So let them talk. Let them compare the old me to the man standing here now. Let them wonder how silence grew teeth. Let them squirm under the weight of a gaze they no longer recognize. I will not say a word. I don't need to. Because the man who returns from the shadows doesn't ask for acknowledgement. He takes it. There is a point where silence stops being shelter and starts being weapon. For a long time, my quiet was survival. A shield against noise, a refuge against betrayal. But silence isn't neutral. It's alive. It changes form depending on the man who holds it. And in my hands, silence has become fire. It doesn't flicker like their rumors. It doesn't dance like their laughter. It burns steady. It devours quietly. Fire doesn't need an announcement. It needs fuel. And they gave me plenty. Every lie became kindling. Every smirk became a spark. Every doubt they whispered became oxygen. And now, the blaze is too large for them to ignore. They used to believe my silence meant defeat. They celebrated it, mistaking it for absence. But silence was not retreat. It was ignition. It was the sound of the match being struck in the dark. And now, the flame moves differently. It doesn't plead. It consumes. It doesn't beg to be seen. It forces recognition. You thought silence made me small, but silence made me vast. Because while you were busy filling the air with noise, I was filling my lungs with fire. And when I exhale now, the world doesn't hear words. It feels heat. Here's the truth. Not all fire roars. Some fire smolders, waiting. It creeps through the ground, unseen, until one day the earth itself is glowing. That's me. That's what I've become. You won't hear me coming, but you'll feel the floor warm under your feet. You'll wonder why the air is heavy, why your chest feels tight, why your throat goes dry when I enter the room. That's silence turned fire, unseen, undeniable. And the most dangerous thing about this fire, it doesn't need to touch you to hurt. New lies, new versions, new villains. It doesn't matter. The louder they get, the hotter my silence burns. They cannot win against something they cannot hold. They cannot smother something that was born in their attempt to drown me. Fire has patience. Fire doesn't rush. Fire waits until the wind changes, until the world is dry enough, until the right moment comes, and then it spreads. That's me now. My silence is spreading. It is carving through the noise, consuming everything false, leaving behind only truth, hardened like steel. I don't need to shout my comeback. I don't need to announce my rebirth. You'll feel it in the smoke that lingers after every room I leave. You'll see it in the ashes, of every doubt you ever threw at me. You'll hear it in the silence that follows your own words. Because deep down, you know you fed this fire. And here's the part you'll never admit. You thought silence would bury me. But silence became the fire that burns you instead. They wanted noise. They wanted me to plead. They wanted me to scream, to collapse, to prove their stories true. But kings are not crowned by the crowd. Kings are crowned by endurance. And endurance never shouts. It waits. It builds. It watches the storm pass and then stands unshaken when the noise has devoured itself. I learned this. Domination is not loud. It doesn't arrive with trumpets. It arrives with presence, with silence that makes men tremble, with stillness that bends the air. You can dress betrayal in gold, and dress lies in applause. But when the silence of a rebuilt man enters the room, everything false bows without meaning to. The boy I was is gone. The one who begged for understanding. The one who opened doors, no matter how many times they slammed shut. The one who kept bleeding for people who only loved the stains. That boy died in the fire. And what rose from him is not a man desperate for approval, but a king who doesn't need a throne to be felt. I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to chase rumors. I don't have to waste words trying to convince anyone who already chose their version of me. The silence carries me. The scars crown me. The weight of betrayal has become the weight of armor. You feel it, don't you? The quiet gravity when I walk past. The chill in your chest when I don't answer. The fire under your skin when you realize I don't need you. Not anymore. That's the silence you fed. That's the fire you sparked. That's the king you created when you tried to bury the man. Let them talk. Let them spin their circles of gossip, rehearse their lies like prayers. Let them laugh, point, and write endings to a story they were never strong enough to live. Who speaks without words? The man whose silence burns louder than every lie combined. The shadow that no rumor can erase. The flame that no hand can smother. And when history remembers me, it will not be by what they said. It will be by what I built while they were talking. It will be by the silence I turned into fire. It will be by the scars I turned into stone. It will be by the crown I forged out of their doubt. So let them talk. Let them choke on their noise. Let them bury themselves in the echo of their own voices. I'll be here, silent, sovereign, unshaken. You handed me the mirror, then blamed me for being cracked.